The Middle East, a region steeped in history, religion, and unfortunately, conflict. This land, with its ancient civilizations and rich cultural heritage, has been a focal point of human development for millennia. From the cradle of civilization in Mesopotamia to the rise and fall of empires, the Middle East has always been a significant player on the world stage. At the heart of this volatile mix lies the Israel-Iran conflict, a complex and enduring struggle that has shaped the geopolitical landscape for decades. This conflict is not just a simple territorial dispute. It is a multifaceted confrontation involving political, religious, and ideological differences. The tension between these two nations has far-reaching implications, affecting not only the region, but also global politics. Two nations, separated by geography but bound by a shared history and a web of animosity, find themselves locked in a dangerous dance. Israel, a small but technologically advanced nation, and Iran, a large country with significant regional influence, are both vying for dominance in the Middle East. Their rivalry is fueled by a combination of historical grievances, religious differences, and strategic interests. Understanding this conflict requires delving into its historical roots, examining the key players and their motivations, and acknowledging the devastating human cost. The origins of the Israel-Iran conflict can be traced back to the mid-20th century, with the establishment of the State of Israel and the subsequent regional dynamics. Over the years, various political leaders, military actions, and diplomatic efforts have shaped the course of this conflict. The human cost is immense, with countless lives lost, families torn apart, and communities devastated. To truly grasp the complexity of this conflict, one must consider the perspectives of both nations and the broader regional context in which they operate.
The seeds of the Israel-Iran conflict were sown long before the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East was already complex, with various nationalistic and colonial interests at play. The establishment of Israel added a new dimension to these tensions, setting the stage for future confrontations. However, the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran marked a significant turning point in the region's history. The revolution was not just a political upheaval, but also a cultural and ideological shift that resonated throughout the Middle East. It fundamentally altered Iran's foreign policy and its relations with neighboring countries, including Israel. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was a pro-Western ruler who maintained relatively cordial relations with Israel. His regime was seen as a stabilizing force in the region, albeit one that was heavily influenced by Western powers. The overthrow of the Shah and the rise of Ayatollah Khomeini, a staunch critic of Israel and Western influence, dramatically changed the dynamics. Khomeini's revolutionary government viewed Israel as an illegitimate state and a symbol of Western imperialism in the region. This perspective was deeply rooted in the revolutionary ideology that sought to challenge and dismantle Western influence in the Middle East. Anti-Israel rhetoric became a cornerstone of the new Iranian regime's foreign policy. This ideological clash laid the foundation for decades of mistrust and hostility. The animosity between Iran and Israel is manifested in various forms, from proxy wars and political confrontations to cyber attacks and economic sanctions. The conflict is not just a bilateral issue, but has broader implications for regional and global stability. Understanding the historical roots of this enmity is crucial for comprehending the current geopolitical landscape of the Middle East.
The Israel-Iran conflict is not confined to direct confrontations. Both countries have been engaged in proxy wars, supporting different sides in conflicts across the region. Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza have emerged as key players in this complex web of alliances. Israel views these groups as Iranian proxies and has launched military operations against them, further escalating tensions.
Adding another layer of complexity to the conflict is Iran's nuclear program. Israel views Iran's pursuit of nuclear capabilities as an existential threat, fearing that a nuclear-armed Iran would embolden its enemies and destabilize the entire region. Iran maintains that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, but international sanctions and diplomatic efforts have failed to resolve the standoff.
Section 5. The human cost. Lives upended, futures uncertain. Beyond the geopolitical maneuvering and strategic calculations lies the devastating human cost of the Israel-Iran conflict. Countless lives have been lost on both sides, victims of violence, terrorism, and war. Families have been torn apart, communities shattered, and a generation scarred by the enduring legacy of this relentless conflict.
Section 6. Inside Israel. Perspectives and Policies. Within Israel, the conflict with Iran evokes a range of emotions and perspectives. For many, it is a matter of national security, a fight for survival against an existential threat. Others view it as a source of regional instability, a conflict that drains resources and hinders progress. Israel's policies towards Iran have varied over the years, from covert operations to diplomatic engagement, but the underlying tension remains.
Section 7. Iran's ambitions, regional power and global influence. Iran, for its part, sees itself as a major regional power, seeking to assert its influence in the Middle East and beyond. The country's leaders view the United States and its allies, including Israel, as obstacles to their ambitions. Iran's support for groups like Hezbollah and Hamas is seen as a way to counter Western influence and project power in the region.
Section 8. The international community. A call for restraint. The international community has long been engaged in efforts to de-escalate the Israel-Iran conflict. The United Nations, the European Union, and other global actors have called for restraint, dialogue, and a peaceful resolution to the dispute. However, these efforts have often been hampered by mistrust, competing interests, and the complex geopolitical dynamics of the region.
Section 9. Paths to Peace, Dialogue, Diplomacy and De-escalation. Despite the deep-seated animosity and mistrust, the pursuit of peace remains a glimmer of hope in the Israel-Iran conflict. Dialogue, diplomacy and de-escalation are essential elements in any path towards a lasting solution. Building trust, addressing grievances and finding common ground will require patience, compromise, and a willingness to look beyond the entrenched narratives of the past.
Section 10. A hope for the future. Coexistence in a complex world. The Israel-Iran conflict is a stark reminder of the challenges facing the Middle East and the world at large. This conflict, rooted in decades of political, religious, and territorial disputes, has shaped the geopolitical landscape of the region. The tensions between these two nations have not only affected their own citizens, but have also had far-reaching implications for global peace and security. It highlights the enduring power of history, ideology, and the pursuit of power. The historical animosities and ideological differences between Israel and Iran have created a complex web of alliances and enmities. Leaders from both sides have often used this conflict to bolster their own political standing, further entrenching the divide. Yet, amidst the darkness, there is always hope. The daily lives of ordinary people in the Middle East are filled with moments of joy, resilience, and a desire for a better future. These glimpses of normalcy remind us that beyond the headlines and political rhetoric, there are human beings who yearn for peace and stability. The human spirit yearns for peace, and this yearning is evident in the numerous peace rallies and grassroots movements that have emerged in both Israel and Iran. These movements, often led by young people and civil society organizations, are a testament to the enduring hope for reconciliation and coexistence. The possibility of a future where Israelis and Iranians can coexist in a complex world should never be abandoned. People-to-people interactions, cultural exchanges, and community events have shown that despite the political divide, there is a shared humanity that binds these two peoples together. The path may be long and arduous, fraught with obstacles and setbacks. Diplomatic efforts and peace talks have often faced significant challenges, but each step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to the possibility of lasting peace. the pursuit of peace is a journey worth taking. It requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to understand and empathize with the other side. Families and communities coming together in harmony serve as powerful symbols of what can be achieved when we choose dialogue over conflict and hope over despair.